Hi everyone. Welcome to the podcast Blood, Sweat and Beers presented by Sports Khabri. This is one episode I was really waiting for. I just couldn't wait for this episode to start, and start this discussion on what happened the previous week and what is going to happen the next week. And I think Ali and Anshuman ki smile bata sakti hai ki क्यों हम excited है because obviously being United fans, finally the result went our way. It was a wonderful week and can't wait to discuss this with you guys. So welcome Anshuman, Rahul, Ali. We don't have Rahul Naresh today here with us, but our panelist Anshuman is here, Rahul is here, Ali is here. How was the week for you guys, and are you guys looking forward to the coming week? We'll start
Absolutely,
with
it was a
Anshuman actually
fantastic.
because it's Anshuman is joining us after a couple of weeks. He hasn't been there with us, so we'll just start with Anshuman. Anshuman, how excited are you for the coming week?
I am quite excited. You pointed out that I'm smiling. Actually, I was smiling much more after the Brentford game for completely different reasons. And I would just we discussed this previously as well. That I'm just really happy with the performance that United had personally, and in general, I'm just really glad that football's back. And I'm glad that tomorrow we have the very first game is the United game, and we're not going to have to wait for Monday. So yeah, and especially with the players, as far as Manchester United are concerned, Casemiro is in, and the performance was quite optimistic. The last one for a number of reasons, which we'll discuss later. And yeah, I just can't wait to talk about football, and can't wait for the weekend to begin.
So I'll go to Rahul next because I want to keep Ali for the last because I know that it's been a very happy week for him और उसकी खुशी जाहिर करने का हम उसको अच्छे से time देंगे. But Rahul, it's been a good start for the season anyway, being an Arsenal fan. So how was the week for you?
Yeah, we had a good start to the season, like 3 wins on the bounce. Like this is the first time we've done it since the 2004-05 season, and ironically, we finished second that season, which was the last time we like we were in the running for the league. Yeah, gives us a good chance to make it 4 out of 4 and keep our foot on the gas.
So Ali, for people who are just listening in and they can't see, I must tell you that Ali has had this wide grin on his face since Monday night. So Ali,
Yes, absolutely fantastic. Actually, this week the first game was very good against between Tottenham and Wolves too. So the week started pretty well, and again, the game of Chelsea losing 3-0 was a very content. I got a content feeling after that game, and then the cake was topped off with a fantastic cherry by the end of the game week with Liverpool getting defeated at home against
yeah.
United. So it was a week of shocking results, to be honest. So it was pretty good, and I felt awesome over the moon.
And I think we should also point this out that Ali told us in the last podcast that this was his first league victory since he started following United. For him, it was the first league victory against Liverpool, and congratulations, first time is special. And I hope you get more
many
memories like this,
many more to come.
many more to come. But on that note, let's start with this conversation. Let's start with our discussion because obviously the game week 4 starts with United. United is facing Southampton. I think they're facing them at home. If I'm no, South they're traveling to
Away at St.
Southampton,
Mary's.
and it's an away game. It's a 5 p.m. kickoff, and obviously United is coming into this week like we've been pointing this out with a victory against Liverpool at home, a 2-1 victory, and Southampton also is coming in with a victory against Leicester, a 2-1 victory when they had traveled to Leicester. So, guys, what are your thoughts on this match? What are your thoughts on the opening match of the week? We'll just start with Anshuman.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite an important match for United for multitude of reasons because United faced Southampton last season also, quite early in the season. It was the second match, and United's tactical deficiencies in the midfield were completely taken advantage of by Southampton, and that is something they will need to be wary of this time round as well. And Southampton are coming into this match on the back of a very strong victory against Leicester, which will give them confidence, and that's quite important for Rafa Arsenal because they did not start in the best of ways. And one
Absolutely.
of the biggest challenges that the United are always offered by Southampton is industry. That they'll always have their players charging at you. They'll always have a plan to do something about against the midfield. So United need to be very worried about that. But they are also quite optimistic because the kind of performance United showed on Mondays was important for the manager and the players. So I'm just looking forward to another kind of display as far as the character is
Yeah,
concerned. That is the
yeah.
old adage that's thrown around, that the players showed up, and I want the players to show up again. And I cannot wait for Casemiro to start debut for United. As far as I'm concerned, he will be playing as long as he's fit. It's a bit of a bummer that Martial has been already ruled out because of another injury. But yeah, I'm still very excited to see United play, and I think they will do a better job of tackling Southampton than they did last season.
Thank you for that, Anshuman. Rahul, taking on from Anshuman's point, because he pointed out a very important thing, that more than the victory, it was the kind of display that United showed on the field. And I don't remember the last time a United team was playing like this. There was more intent from them, there was more threat. They were, in a way, playing in a front foot, even though, like the possession stats, we all know United had only 30% possession, but they were still, like, they were a team with intent. So, is that something you see United following now, or do you see them falling back to what has been happening for the previous some months?
Look, yeah. Looking at the win against Liverpool, yeah, that was a great performance from like every single player on the pitch. Like you cannot, put your finger on a single player and say like he didn't show up or he didn't show fight and resilience on the pitch. So 10 out of 10 on that regard. But coming back to this game, however, like this is a game they are expected to win in most respects, and this is not, I'm not saying this because I'm actually a rival fan or banter, but if you look at it in tactically, like, so you see, uh, United have been vulnerable in set pieces, right? And this is
Yes,
one of the most potent weapons that Southampton possess.
of
Other than
course.
that, what one more thing that has intrigued me in the past couple of weeks is that Southampton over the last stretch of over the last leg of the past season and over the preseason and also the first match, they look dead and buried. However, from the second half against Leeds and their win against Leicester, you can see that their like Ralph Hasenhüttl has also been able to build a sort of chemistry and camaraderie between his players, like which can offset a team like United, who themselves have not gelled in at the moment, and they are going away at St. Mary's. So although United are favorites, I still think that this game has the potential to be a banana skin for the Red Devils.
Interesting. Ali, we all saw that the big calls actually that Eric Ten Hag took for the match, dropping Ronaldo, dropping Maguire, playing Rashford as a number nine striker, as a central striker, and playing Malacia over Shaw. Um, what do you think? Is this going to be now how Eric Ten Hag is going to deal with the team, or you see him falling back, stepping back, and like involving these players again? In short, what I'm trying to ask is, do you see any way of Maguire and Ronaldo finding them as part of the starting 11 again, especially for the
No,
Southampton game?
as far as Maguire is concerned, if he'll give chances to Varane and Martinez again for at least 2-3 games and see what turns out. And the changes he made in the against Liverpool was more of a tactical change rather than a change made for whole season. So we are just initially into it because the paces we needed to have a fast and agile centre back against Liverpool's
Hmm.
forwards, which Maguire
Hmm.
is not. And I
Hmm.
think Samuel Lucas posted a report that Eric Ten Hag will be using all four of his centre backs in a rotation. So
Hmm.
we'll see what happens with that. And Ronaldo, let's see if I think if Ronaldo is destined to go out, I think he's not gonna play tomorrow too. But we cannot say right now what is gonna happen with him. So there are a bit of in a puzzly situation right now. Again, Malaysia has the chance to be the best left back for us
Hmm.
amongst Luke Shaw and him. I don't see Luke Shaw coming back and taking him over again. So we are just initially, I can't rest on Liverpool on the performance against Liverpool. That's one of a kind. that's one of a kind. That's a pretty rare thing for us. It has been happening since last 4 or 5 years. So we have to see if the team is consistent, if the players are being consistent. So we'll see what happens. And Casemiro's involvement will have a huge impact for our
Yeah,
defensive
yeah, yeah,
situations, and even in set pieces, we have been very vulnerable. And against Southampton, they press pretty well. That is the beauty of the Premier League. Even the lower level teams, with due respect to Southampton, they have the intensity and courage to step forward and press the teams. And on the other hand, that makes them play pretty vulnerable in counter attacks, and they concede. So United have the chance to win, but you can never say that Southampton are gonna lose definitely. So we'll see what happens. Again, Saint Mary's has pretty good atmosphere too, so they get backed by their home fans. So it's gonna be a tough fight, and it may turn out one-sided too if Southampton are not on their complete mentality.
yeah. And obviously, like you said, that it's a rare thing. It has been a rare thing for sure. But what I'm personally hoping for is that this can be a template which is followed. So one last question regarding this game to Anshuman, and then we can move on to the next fixtures. My thing is like this changes, and obviously had these changes not worked, Eric Ten Hag would have been like like he would have been murdered right now with the kind of calls that he took. But there was something very Ferguson like in the way he's dealt with the situation. Like our previous managers, we have seen them not changing the template despite the results not going their way for whatever reasons, for different reasons. But this man has just come in. He's trying to show his assertiveness, that he's not scared of taking the big calls. So my question to you, Anshuman, is do you see him following the same template in regards to how he wants the team to play and what is working for him, and it has to be his way, it has to be a Ten Hag way? What is your opinion on that?
I think if you would have asked this question to me after Brentford, I would have had a completely different answer, because the Liverpool match showed me that Ten Hag is not only acknowledging the fact that he needs to be a bit more pragmatic, but
Yeah,
also that he's ready to take that step, ready to be pragmatic.
yeah,
So I think,
absolutely.
well, so yeah, so the question that you asked, that is he going to be a bit less, will he relent in his pursuit towards the proactive football? I think he will, because the first two defeats immediately told him that the proactive, very how shall I put this, dogmatic kind of football that he wants to play, the possession-based football, it's not going to be easy, because first of all he needs to understand the intensity of the Premier League, which will only come with experience. Secondly, the players that he requires to play his ideal kind of football are currently not there. It's going to be take a while. Organically, it's going to take a while before the players arrive. So
Hmm.
that is something that he needs to acknowledge. And I think the first two defeats were the nature of those defeats and the score lines, the 6-1 score line or like aggregate that we lost to Brentford and Brighton. I think that gave him a very hard lesson, that
Hmm.
unless he starts picking up points quite soon, things could turn very ugly, and he may not have a future to look forward to if he does not
Yeah,
pick up points quickly. So
yeah,
I'm really happy that he went into the Liverpool game with a very pragmatic approach. And as Ali already pointed out, the changes he made into the starting lineup, quite a lot of them were tactical, and they worked out. We won. It was a fantastic performance for a multitude of reasons, and I am expecting him to be pragmatic going forward. I think there will be a lot of matches, especially in the Europa League and the lower earlier rounds of the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, in which he'll try to play that ideal possession based brand of football that he has been trying out in pre-season. But I expect him to be a lot more pragmatic, and I'm quite optimistic about the fact that he will be able to execute those plans on the pitch going further into the season.
yeah. He's being pragmatic for sure, but we can't say the same about the United transfers actually, because there are new names getting connected to us still every day, and obviously it's going to be a very busy last week before the deadline day on 11th on 1st of September before 11 p.m. But there will be new arrivals, I'm sure, and there's already Dubravka and a lot of names.
Shweta,
Anthony, yeah.
Anthony for three figures, seriously.
I mean, Rahul, I was just about to come to you for that. But that's what I'm saying. That's why I said that's what I mentioned. Ten Hag is being pragmatic, but I don't think the United board is. But I think these are certain things which happen, and the kind of market. If you ask me this, I still believe Maguire for 80 million, Fofana for 75 million. These figures are absurd. like, but this is the market which we are dealing in right now, and I think every club senses the desperation of United right now, and that is why these figures are coming. Don't you think so, Rahul?
But like the main issue with United chasing Anthony here is that, at least in my eyes, is that you see why United are looking for a right-sided winger, right? But and in some way I feel Ten Hag hasn't been able to fully trust Jadon Sancho, because although he has all the requirements that he needs of a right-sided profile player, however, one thing that he lacks, Jadon Sancho, is that instant acceleration and speed, which he doesn't have. And if you are going for an Anthony, he is also a similar profile to Sancho, and he also lacks the instant acceleration and speed. So this is my question. Like, if you guys are trying, like, about to spend three figure sum on him. However, in that regard, you guys are actually not going for the profile that you need, and you are also not, in that sense, not strengthening that right sided area. So this is my main concern. That, and even if you guys ever had went for him for, let's say, 50 or 60 million, I would have still had the same question, because at the end of the day, he's not fitting the profile that you actually need there.
I think,
I have two
yeah.
points to make if I can to that.
Yes, Anshuman, please go on.
Okay, so first of all, it's a triple figure sum depending on which of the which currency you're looking at, because it's 100 million
Yeah.
euros when the whole package is
Mm-hmm.
concerned, and which breaks down to something between 78 to 85 million UK pounds. So
Yeah.
it is still a very expensive gamble. I'm not disputing that. It's unquestionably so. But first of all, the profile that we currently require depends on what Eric Ten Hag wants, and Eric Ten Hag
Yeah.
wants a left-sided right winger, left-footed right winger who can hold the width out there and can. And regarding the pace argument, I think this would have made a lot of sense if this was Solskjaer's United, because that team required a lot of pace on the break, especially when going from defense to attack. This one does not, because ideally the team that Eric Ten Hag is looking for is quite comfortable on the ball, and does not, when on its absolute best, is not trying to run, like it's not trying to look for a lot of fast players out wide. We have seen him experimenting this with the likes of Berghaus and Dusan Tadic in with the Ajax teams as well. That the creative players that he has out wide need not be the fastest one, and the pace can come from somewhere else on the pitch as well. Which so it's not just about getting Anthony on the right hand side; it is also about who goes on the left. Because if Anthony does arrive, which looks quite likely, Jadon Sancho will be the one going on the left. And he and Tyrell Malacia will make quite a partnership, which is something that neither Anthony Martial or Marcus Rashford can offer. Because neither of those, as well as much as they like playing out wide, they don't really come back. They don't have that tracking back tendency that Ten Hag
Yeah.
wants his
Yeah.
wingers to
Yeah.
have, which Jadon Sancho does. And
Yeah.
that is the ideal football that he's trying to work towards, in which a situation in which United are completely dominating the possession, are in the opposition's half, and are cramping them in their own half and exploiting the spaces in a way that the opposition is not able to. In that situation, your wingers need not be the fastest ones. Will that have some issues go against in a fast-paced match where you would much rather have Marcus Rashford on the right-hand side running down the channels? Absolutely. But I expect Ten Hag to be pragmatic in those situations. But as far as the ideal profile that United are requiring right now, I think based on what Ten Hag needs, he completely fits the bill.
Fair enough. That's actually quite well explained by Anshuman, and
Yeah,
these are things
Anjuman,
which will
like,
be.
just to yeah, like, if I can counter that, just to add to that, is that I got your point, but, like, the answer is in your explanation itself. You said, like, the ideal system that Ten Hag wants. Now, in order for Ten Hag to get to his ideal system, he still needs 2 to 3 full windows to get his
Mhm,
ideal team. So
mhm,
if you so this is my point. So still doesn't have the other pieces in place to have that Anthony flourish from that side. This is what I'm pointing to. So that, like,
mhm.
you guys can sign him, and he will be there, because the main issue for me is that at the moment this United team is not capable enough to have sustained amount of possessional dominance. Like, this
I
United
agree.
team cannot keep 60% or 75%
I think. I
possession.
think.
So when you guys will have a high area turnover, so in that situations you will need that fast paced wide players. So this is what I was referring to. So in order to have Anthony to execute, to operate optimally in your system, you need before an Anthony, you need the other pieces in place. In my observation.
I think
Dude,
I think
you're not wrong.
and
You're not wrong. But
I think
the
uh,
just shortest answer to that is that Ten Hag wants a certain place, and he's getting whatever he can at the moment. And if he thought about that, okay, first let's go for a goalkeeper and let's just stick to the goalkeeper until unless we get another player, then he might miss out on another player. Now, United could have offered him a cheaper alternative, but they can't because our recruitment system is bust. So what United, I'm completely agreeing with you that the ideal football that he's trying to play is currently not possible, which is why he took the pragmatic approach. But he's trying to get United are trying to give him as many players as quickly as they can. It will take time. The ideal football is not coming this season. It's not coming probably for the majority of next season as well. But the players have to come around sometime, right? So United are giving him whenever they can. And hopefully, as a fan, on at least the three of us, we can only hope that the rest of the pieces of this puzzle that they can supply him with in time as well.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. I agree with you, Anshuman, and I agree with you also, Rahul, because I think right now what is happening is they are just laying a platform, break by break, and it is going to take some time. But these are the things which we will discuss extensively in our transfer podcast very soon, which we are going to do very soon. But right now, let's just get back to the game week 4 again, and the next match which we are going to cover is Chelsea versus Leicester City. Chelsea is coming into this game after obviously like losing away at Leeds 3-0, which was in a way one of the shocking results of the week, at least for me. And Leicester, like we discussed, they lost to Southampton at home by 2-1. So, Ali, what are your thoughts on this match?
I think again Chelsea might get the treatment they got against Leeds because they are too much vulnerable at the back and even in the midfield. I think Kante is not fit yet. Ruben Loftus-Cheek as a right wing back. I don't know what people thought about it. Having him there, he doesn't have pace. He just have the physicality. Neither does he have the orientation and the mental ability to be at places where a right wing back should be. So we might see someone like Vardy running down the channels and and inflicting some harm to them. So it's gonna be a tough battle for them. And the so-called Fufana Derby, as it would be, he's not gonna play. He won't be in the squad. It's confirmed.
Yeah, yeah,
So Leicester also lack their best defender in that.
yeah,
So it can be a goal scoring game. It can be a goal scoring game, and Chelsea are struggling to find goal scoring chances a lot of the time. They take too many long shots, whether it's Mason Mount or Havertz or that. I mean, the key would be to have Reece James playing as the right wing back, and maybe for doing so, they might need to have Trevor Chalobah playing as the right centre back, even though he's about to go on loan, which looks very likely if they get Fofana or someone else. So it can be tricky for Chelsea going into this match. Leicester already have some sort of they got beaten by Southampton last game week. So let's see what happens. Both have negative aspects more, both the teams, rather than the positive ones right now.
mm. Exactly. That is something I was coming to actually. And Rahul, I wanted to ask you this. Chelsea hasn't had the best of the start to the season, and but so hasn't Leicester. Leicester also hasn't been doing that well. So do you think it is a match where either of the teams can probably just storm back into form, or it could just end up being a dull affair?
I don't think it will be a dull affair. Like I see the like goals in this game, at least like 3 or 4 goals at least. And just to touch on Chelsea first, Anshuman, do you remember the live Twitter space we staged before the season started, and we were predicting so in that live space, what happened is that we had quite a few Chelsea fans, and we took their views regarding how they would want their teams to be set up ahead of the new season. And most of the Chelsea football faithfuls were looking telling us that they were looking at the center backs or the forwards, whereas I think Anshuman and I were the ones where we were pointing out that apart, let's forget the forwards and forget the center backs. What they need at the moment is a defense, a line breaking defensive midfielder. And you can evidently see now people are saying Chelsea are not good at attacking wise. However, if you look at their game closely, they are very good attacking wise. However, why most of their forward, the forward players are not getting in the right position is because the system itself is restricting them. Just because they don't have that combative number six in that midfield, there are two pivots along with their, the number eights and all that. They have that tendency in the back of mind that they are always susceptible to
Did I lose Rahul or everyone has
now
lost him?
get. And
No,
yeah,
I think
I think I'm back.
Rahul, actually, we lost
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. We lost you in the middle, Rahul. But we'll come back to that point again. I'm sorry we just lost you there. But Anshuman, so like Ali mentioned, it's it's being termed as the Fufana Derby, and obviously Fufana is not playing. He's playing. He'll be playing for the under 23s apparently. Is this going to add something to the game, to the tensions around it? Does it add something extra?
for the fans, it does, unquestionably so, because Leicester are once again holding another big team to splash out the money on one of their defenders, and Chelsea are really they seem really interested in going after Fofana. And look, they have had their centre back issues, but as Rahul pointed out in the argument that he was trying to make, that Tuchel is playing this very contrite system in which the attacking players have very little chances. There's not that flexibility. There's not that creative freedom for them up front. But it all comes down to the profile of players that they have on hand. Because let's not forget that when Thomas Tuchel arrived, Frank Lampard's Chelsea was all over the place when it comes to defense. And defensively, they were not able to hold themselves. So he reverted from a four centre back, from four at the back system to a three at the back system. And he implemented this 3-4-2-1. And so to initiate a mid block, to be able to implement that mid block with midfielders that on their own would not offer the same level of physicality that they could as a unit. So the likes of Jorginho, who as a regista struggled under Maurizio Sarri, and N'Golo Conte, whose injury issues have made him less physically imposing in the recent seasons, and the likes of Mason Mount and Kai Havertz, who are quite struggling at the time. Mason Mount industry is always there, but sometimes that creative outlet can still be something to be desired. But that is the system that Tuchel had to implement to make sure that Chelsea were at least foundationally strong in defense and they were able to move the ball back from front. And then we could see about what happened with the further acquisitions. Now, their issue that I cannot somehow make out is why, in the first place, they let Tammy Abraham go, and why did they replace him with a 28-year-old Romelu Lukaku by splashing $97 million on him, and once again misprofiling him, not using him properly, and loaning him back out
Yeah,
after the season. So those are the kind of things that we really need to be asking Chelsea. Now, look, their hierarchical overhaul is very understandable. It's a completely different setup now, and they don't have a footballing person in place making these decisions. You have Todd Bowley, who is trying to help Thomas Tuchel out as much as he can, but still he is going for the big name signings. I mean, Chelsea are even in for Frankie De Jong, which isn't
yeah,
exactly the kind of midfielder that they look. But
yeah,
as Rahul pointed out, if they can get someone who can play as a deep line midfielder role, who can disrupt the opposition chances right in the middle, they can in turn allow Thomas Tuchel to once again implement a four at the back system so as to free the players and creativity up front. Because he's very good at playing four at the back systems against Conte's side, for example. But in general, I think because he has been working for 2.5 years at the club now, nearly 2 years at the club now, it has become slightly more hackneyed, slightly more repetitive, the kind of football that he plays. So things need to change quite quickly. And Chelsea, like Rahul said, they need to find that midfielder for him so that he can tactically evolve his team because that has not happened for quite a while.
I have a
yes,
point I've noticed for like the last one or two seasons now that midfielder which they miss is Mateo Kovacic. They have been very, very much more fluent when Mateo Kovacic has been on the field in resisting the pressures and breaking lines with his passes. But his fitness has been the concern. He is still injured. So their best partnership has been Mateo Kovacic with N'Golo Conte, who has been all the places in disrupting the play. Mateo Kovacic much more calm and composed in breaking lines and everything. So and both of them have the issue with their physicality and fitness. So that's a place where they need to sort out the problem.
Well, actually, yeah, it's a. I mean, Chelsea has had these problems. I think they've had these problems before also with managers. There is something like a second, third season syndrome which happens with them. I don't know why that happens, and probably if Abramovich was still there, maybe already there would have been talks of Tuchel being fired.
Yeah,
But
very much.
anyway, let's move on to our next game. Our next game is City versus Crystal Palace. And City obviously is coming into this game after a very entertaining 3-all draw against Newcastle, for which City had come back to draw the game. And Crystal Palace is coming in with some form here. They've won the game 3-1 against Aston Villa last game week. And Zaha seems to be in a very imperious form right now. What are your thoughts on that, Ali? If we start with you.
Yeah, I think if I remember in the last season, City drew against Crystal Palace, if I'm not wrong.
No, they lost at home and they
They
drew
lost
away.
the draw. Was the very
Yeah,
important.
yeah. So they showed a very good physicality, and they are going to set up the team the way they set it up the team against Liverpool, exactly that. So it's gonna be a tough nut to break for Manchester City, and they are very good right now in counter, much more better than they were last season because of the availability of Eberechi Eze and his knack of finding decent passes and breaking the lines. He has shown that. And the problem Crystal Palace have is a striker which can hold the ball up front. Wilfred Zaha is a winger. He loses ball a lot because of his tendency to get past people with dribbling. So what Crystal Palace lack is the striker who can hold the ball up front and be there with ensure the physicality. So it is gonna be a tough net for City to crack right now. But they have a good news that Bernardo Silva is staying for them. If not, if he was to leave, I think City would have had to struggle in few of the matches at least going into the season because Bernardo Silva is their defensive midfielder in the final third. If I'm more precise in the style of play he has, the intensity he shows. So and we'll see. I think City are there to win, and City needs to win. So City are favorites, but it is gonna be very tough for them to break Crystal Palace's line because Joaquin Anderson, the way he dealt Darwin Nunez, he's gonna be all over Haaland this time. But on the other side, he is a bit fragile in his positions. So, but yes, if they put a good spirit as a unit as they shown against Liverpool, and they might have the chance to get something from the game.
Rahul, like obviously we know that Zaha has been quite in form, and I think he's a part of your FPL team also. Do you think who are the other players that you're watching out for in this game?
Like I think Crystal Palace would have had, a good chance against City. However, I feel like the main missing link for this Crystal Palace side this time around is Conor Gallagher, in my opinion, because I feel he was the main difference last season. That box to box midfielder who can, do the dirty defensive job, but more importantly, who can, gallop up the pitch and attack games offensively as well. Like Palace tried to address this issue by signing Chico Decore, but however, I don't feel he has that attacking tenacity and that attacking in impact in games that a corner Gallagher has made last season. So I think in that regard, that Palace will have a bit of a challenge coming up against this City team. I think, and moreover, like Haaland's physicality and pace will really trouble them this time around because he Crystal Palace may be able to keep him quiet to an extent that he doesn't get a goal and assist. However, his movement will create that additional space for the likes of Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne, or whoever starts on the right hand side, or Mahrez, Foden, or Bernardo Silva. So yeah, I expect City to make light work of them. However, I don't also expect City to
I think we've lost Rahul again
Yes, 2-1
while
or
he was.
yes, I was
Yeah,
saying
I think.
so. It's mostly looked like a low scoring game to me,
Okay.
but
Anshuman,
as City win.
sorry, Rahul. So, okay, so you're predicting
Hmm.
a City win here, and Anshuman, I have a couple of questions for you. One is obviously this is Patrick Vieira's second season with Crystal Palace now, and do you see him now playing the kind of football maybe which he wanted to play? The team is more his now, and they're listening to him and they're following it because Crystal Palace has had a nice start. And my second question to you is again related to this only. Like City's not lost any game. But are you really convinced with the kind of start City has had to the season? Or do you think there is something lacking there and they could find themselves in some kind of a pitfall very soon?
So answering the first question, I think naturally because Vieira has had been in the season for like with Palace for 1.5 seasons now, he's getting there, and it's quite remarkable to see the transition that Palace have made from Roy Hodgson to Patrick Vieira, because Roy Hodgson's Crystal Palace were after Sean Dyche the second most, uh, for the lack of a better word, boring team, because
Yeah,
they just knew how to get the points and be safe. And under him, they never had any kind of relegation scrap. They never really had to worry about, but they never really had anything exciting about them either. And now,
yeah,
when you look at Patrick Vieira and Crystal Palace, you look at Joachim Anderson as a quarterback, essentially playing at centre back with his passes, with the kind of lunges he makes, and with the kind of positioning which is not pretty bad either. Mark Gahey complementing him quite decently at centre back. Tariq Mitchell being a very good left back, and you have the likes of Eberici as and Michael Olise, who are very good progressing the ball up the pitch, which is something that now that Conor Gallagher is not there, like Rahul pointed out, is something that Palace are going to have to rely on. So as a Eberici as a combining with Wilfred Zaha of the left and Olise combining with Andre Ayew on the right. And those are the kind of exciting things that you look for Palace that you didn't look for before. So that has been quite a transition from Roy Hodgson's Palace to Vieira's Palace. Coming to the second question about regarding Manchester City and their sluggish start, this is not the first time they've had that. So City even last season had a bit of a sluggish start, and the season before even when they went on to win the league by 86 points. By their standards, that's not a big points tally because they usually end up in mid 90s as far as their points
yeah,
tally is concerned. It's just that we Manchester United as the second place team were not really in a position to challenge them any more than 70 points. So
yeah,
City are prone to have sluggish starts because when you are playing for Pep Guardiola side, what the experience of one season, it's so draining, psychologically draining, as far as maintaining the concentration levels to be able to play his systems, because he experiments so much. And for better or worse, look, if he wins, he's hailed a genius. If he does not win, he's hailed an overthinker. But one thing that we cannot deny is that he's absolutely an innovator and a footballing genius, and he implements that in his football. But as a player, playing in season out is quite draining for you physically and emotionally and psychologically. So, which explains why City start off slightly more sluggishly than rest of the teams. But the thing that they have, the ace that they have up their sleeve, is that every when we reach the middle part of the season, when every other team start losing their momentum, City start gaining theirs. And once they do that, it's very hard to stop them. There's a sense of inevitability about them. So I'm not that particularly worried about City losing points because I think they'll quite easily once again end up in that top two positions, because that's what City do. Right now, they are implementing quite a bit of tactical change, because for the first time in a long time they have a traditional number nine up front. We have already seen the Guardiola doing a bit more tinkering with his fullbacks, and I expect that a bit more tweaking, especially after the Winter World Cup, because that's when most of the matches, remaining 22 matches, will happen, and that's where City will get their chance to once again reinforce themselves top of the league. So yeah, I think it is a sluggish start, and if you are a team like Crystal Palace looking to get points of City, this is as good a chance as you will get, and it's also better for the other teams in the league that City drop a few points, if not outright lose them, just draw a few matches. So yeah, I'm quite hopeful. As a neutral, I just want that City lose drop points, and even as a United fans, I hope they'll lose all of their matches. But I don't think from an analytical point of view, this is something that is to be worried about, because in the long run, I think they'll be more than fine.
I think that's a very interesting point you made about the reason behind their sluggish start. Uh, Given that, of course, the Guardiola demands a lot from his players, and it must be taking a toll. And yes, we have seen it in the previous seasons of how they kickstart their season, and once they start it, they just go on incredible runs. But a very quick question to Rahul and Ali before we move on to our next fixture. Guardiola just mentioned, I think, 2 3 days back that the transfer has been done for City. Like it's done. They're done with the business. Is that surprising for you guys, or you guys saw some more transfers happening, or you think like it's the best thing to happen?
Firstly, I thought they are gonna get just a midfield, sorry, just a left back for them. So initially, when they were linked with Sergio Gomez of Anderlecht, they I, the reports were that he'll go on loan to, I think, Girona, but Pep decided to keep him in the squad, so he's gonna be their secondary left back. So I think they are well and good to go. They have almost every position. They have good players, and at least two good players, to be honest. So they are decent to go. I think they in the long run they'll be fine.
Rahul,
And
is
they
it
they
was it?
managed they managed to save Bernardo Silva for at least one more season. So
Yeah,
that's two transfers in one for them. He gives the effort of a two player in one.
that's true. That's true. Rahul, was it surprising for you, or you saw this business coming to a close?
Yeah, Pep seems to be happy with his squad. However, like for me, I think they are a bit short, like one or two players short still. Like see, like as we were talking at in the Premier League season review, in that part I was saying like the City have the most number of players going into the World Cup, and these all players are playing for the teams the like that are playing for those nations who are in the running to win the World Cup. So they are expected to
Hmm.
play at least 4, 5, or 6 games.
Yeah,
And apart from that, City are also expected to go make a deep run into the Champions League, and they also give priority to the AFL Cup as well as the FA
yeah,
Cup.
yeah, yeah.
So if you look at all those things, like these players are expected to at least to play 65 or 70 games by the time the season ends. So in that regard, I still do feel like they are one or two players short, and this can come back and bite them in the back later on down the line.
Interesting. We'll see. We'll see how the season pans out, and of course,
Because
we'll
you
keep.
could, yeah, because you see the same thing has also happened with Liverpool. Like you have to keep refreshing your squad. Liverpool failed to refresh their squad for 2 seasons, and now they're paying
Yeah,
the price.
yeah,
And the City could end up with in the same a mess,
yeah.
just like a Liverpool.
True. Talking about Liverpool, we'll just quickly move on to our next fixture, which is Liverpool playing Bournemouth. And of course, we know that what happened with Liverpool. Liverpool lost 2-1 away at United this week. And Bournemouth also had a disastrous game against Arsenal, losing 3-0. Anshuman, what do you think? I mean, of course, everyone is saying that, it's a miracle, it's a shock result. And of course, it's a shock result, but because of the form that United was in and what happened last season. But looking at Liverpool's form this season, did you somewhere see it coming? And do you think that that slump continuing or them just turning the leaf against Bournemouth?
So I Liverpool had been struggling at the start of the season, and the only reason I would consider the United defeat a shock is because I wasn't sure what kind of United would turn up. Because if
Hmm.
you could give me a fixed focal point as to, okay, this is the kind of United that is turning up. If we knew beforehand that the players would show up the way they did, because they did not in the Brighton and Brentford games, then obviously I would have said that United had it in them to eke a point at least against Liverpool. The issue that Liverpool have, as Rahul pointed out, that their midfield is slightly not replenished, not refreshed the same way that their defense and attack has, which is a bit of an issue, especially now that Thiago is injured and Naby Keita has always had his injury issues. So this is something that Liverpool did even the season before last, when the injuries completely ravaged their defense. But they had the mental fortitude to fight back in the second half of the season, despite not being able to buy a victory. There was a time, I think, in the January to March 2021, where they just could not win, and it
Yeah.
just did not seem where the victory was going to come from, and yet they ended up third in the league. So
Hmm.
do they have the mental fortitude to be able to bounce back? Absolutely, they do. But the problem this time is that, unlike last season, in which teams were having a bit of a downtime, there are a few more teams this time around to take take Liverpool's position. Arsenal are ready to take that. Arsenal are absolutely ready. Spurs are ready. Chelsea and United are having their thing, but the thing with United is it's a 50-50 situation. If they can get their act together, they can at least mathematically be in contention for a top four place, if not for a top six place. So I think starting right now, problem for Liverpool is that the midfield that they have with Fabinho and Harvey Elliott. Harvey Elliott, as far as his talent is unquestionable, but he's not quite there yet. He's not the kind of person that you can immediately rely on in the same way that you can rely Roberto Firmino or Thiago Alcantara in midfield and Fabinho. So that becomes the problem because if you are then having to rely on James Milner and Jordan Henderson in midfield, they obviously are not going to be able to offer the same level of creativity than the likes of Thiago Alcantara and Harvey Elliott would individually. So that is the kind of system that Jurgen Klopp right now needs to worry about. But I think this match that they're walking into should be a very easy victory for them. I think Bournemouth obviously have it in them to be able to, if they can find the moments, because the moments will always be there. If they can capitalize on the moments, a shock result can never be an impossibility. But I don't see that happening because Bournemouth have started quite weirdly. It doesn't really look like that they're a team that's going to stay up the season, as far as I'm concerned. And I think if Liverpool are looking for a match to bounce back, it's not that terrible a situation for them as it had become with that defense issue 2 seasons ago. But if they need a victory and they need a victory soon, I think this is the match they're going to get in. And I think one of James Milner and Jordan Henderson needs to not start in the game. And Fabinho, I don't know why he was not starting the match against United. I'm glad personally he didn't. But from a Liverpool point of view, he needs to start that match because Van Dijk need him, Ibrahim Konate need him. Every single player in that defense line of Liverpool need Fabinho to be playing. So I think Fabinho starts. And Jordan Henderson, if he can be paired up alongside someone like Harvey Elliott, who can take some of the creative responsibilities off him, then he can do his thing as well, and then he can shine as well. So that is what I'm looking forward to. I think this is a match Liverpool can win, and then this is a match that they should win and get them back on track.
So, any views on that, Rahul?
Like, in respect to the game, yeah, I expect this game to be the one where Liverpool bounce back. However, like you cannot also like take this as the template that this is the point where from where on they will bounce, because after Bournemouth, face they face Newcastle next. So yeah, so like that won't be an easy game. So like if the win against Bournemouth, that doesn't mean they are up and running for the game against Newcastle, which is going to be tough. And yeah, it's simply because they have to, and then they have to address this midfield issue. They can't run away from it, because just like just like 2 years back with the defense, like if you, whenever you have a loophole in your system, there's a domino effect. It affects your attack and it also affects your defense as well. Like and more than that, also like I'm also worried with Virgil van Dijk. Like I've been observing him since the second end of last season, and I feel like I think like there have been like memes about him as well. But I think this is true that like I think he like when you look at him, it looks like he feels as if like he has mastered the the art of defending, and nowadays he just couldn't care less about going for those large tackles or the last ditch blocks, which you can see against when Jadon Sancho put the ball at the back of the net. So yeah, that is a worry for me in that regard, because yeah, they are known as the mentality monsters. However, like they are looking far from it.
So, Ali, which Liverpool do you think will turn up for this game? The mentality monsters or the team which is like kind of in a slump right now?
They are going to be okay against Bournemouth because Bournemouth is the only team amongst all of the 20 teams that we can't look from where are they going to score a single goal, especially against a team like Liverpool, to be honest. So
Mm.
again, Liverpool are in a trot of 3 games not winning. So Klopp must have been failing on them, throwing some sort of hair ras at the players and those who are being very, I would say, pretty much careless with the way they have turned up into the games. But this is the game where they have the chance to get that confidence back, and maybe they can, if they have that sort of grit which they showed against United in the last 10 minutes, they might get to score even 4 goals against Bournemouth. They are very Bournemouth. Actually, they are the only team which we can say, yeah, they are getting relegated. So we can think there is no way I can see Bournemouth scoring goal against Liverpool. The only way they might have the chance would be Kiefer Moore holding on to some balls or crashing some headers because of his height. And in the last game, I saw him few crosses were good by Marcus Tavernier or Adam Smith, but I don't see Bournemouth scoring any goals.
Or
Liverpool
maybe
should.
maybe there'll be an own goal. That's one way they might just
That might
find the net.
happen, but for the
Yeah.
own goal, for Bournemouth to get own goal, they have to be on the final third.
Yeah, that's true. That's
If they
true.
still win.
Actually, yeah, I'm sure Liverpool will also be raring to get their season going now, and
Yeah,
we
and
could
this is
just
their
see one of
chance.
their yeah, we could actually see a very fine performance filled with goals. Even though I am hoping for a shock result, obviously. But so now the next fixture and something which Rahul Saha has obviously been waiting for, and because his team has had a brilliant start to the season, like Arsenal is the talk of the town. They're facing Fulham next at home, and they are coming into this game after a victory against Bournemouth only, winning the game by 3-0. And Fulham also is coming in with a victory, a 3-2 victory against Brentford, which is quite a fine performance by them. But my question to you, Rahul, is obviously Arsenal is the talk of the town, and Arsenal has started the game the season in a wonderful manner. But what do you have to say about Fulham's performance? I mean, Fulham drew 2-2 against Liverpool, and then they won the last game. And obviously, we've seen with Fulham, they've been doing this kind of a ping pong for the past 3-4 seasons, where they come up, they go immediately down. Do you see that happening this week or this season also, or do you think it's a different Fulham which has turned up?
Yeah, I think it's still early to say that Fulham can be a whether Fulham can be a relegation candidate or whether they can stay up. However, like in respect to the game, like I'm not worried about them since like we've played them 30 times across all competitions in our history, and we've never lost to them. We have a record of 24 draw wins and 6 draws against them, so that is not an issue. And however, and although they drew against Liverpool. However, to answer that, I think we have at present we have a better defense and a better midfield, like with respect to Liverpool. So yeah, I think we are well equipped to navigate. Sorry, we are well equipped to neutralize their attack, and I think we have enough attacking threat ourselves, to cause havoc in their defensive third. However, like just to go off topic from the match, although we have had a great start, and our fixtures say that we should keep on going doing well at least for the first 6 to 7 games, and which we should. But however, like if we are to sustain this, or or if people think that we can challenge for the league, for me I still think that for that to happen we still need 2 more players this window, but in this transfer window. And Nicholas Pepe left yesterday, so that opens up the slot for that right winger that we are looking at, and that the midfield talk with Tielemans is also on hold. However, as of now I don't think that Arsenal are going to go for him, because like the verbal agreements have been in place till since December, and Tielemans is free next summer. So why pay 40 millions now upfront if you can get him for free next summer? So yeah, so if we are to if we are to sustain this, we need a midfielder and a winger. How? But I don't think the Arsenal hierarchy are going to, is going to be either or it's not going to be both. So that's the main concern for me, that we wouldn't be able to sustain this run, and at the end of the season you can see us falling back to third or fourth. But if we can get those 2 players in, I think we can challenge for that second place quite easily. This is why at the at the start of the podcast, like in the first episode of the podcast, I said that Arsenal are my dark horses because I think if we do our business right, we can be right up there with City.
Well, let's see. Let's see how Arsenal continue their season if they can maintain the form, or like we've seen in the previous seasons, a lot of time Arsenal slightly slumbers down. Their form goes down as the season progresses. But Ali, do you see a shock result happening here?
As a United fan, I expect, I hope, but I don't pragmatically. I don't see Arsenal dropping this time around because the way they started the season is pretty good, and they've been very astute in their tactical shapes and all over the field. Whether it be building up as a back three with Ben White as a right back and being very much composed in the defense and get everything going through Gabriel Jesus. So I think they are expected to win, but this Fulham is very much different. As the looks of it initially, this Fulham is much different from what it used to be in the 1920 season. So so we'll see. I think they have the tendency, the way they came back against Brentford, you know, won in the 90th minute. So I think they have the physicality, but they have a lot to do to get to beat Arsenal or even to draw. The Liverpool which turned up against Fulham was more of a Liverpool's own mistake rather than Fulham inflicting the draw upon them. The way they started was very awful, and the way Arsenal are starting their games is very high with a very high intensity and always threatening to score goals from the very first go. I expect Arsenal to win.
Okay. And Anshuman, do you think Arteta's team has arrived now? This is like what he was building towards.
This is most certainly what he was building towards, and this is something that you could see from day one. The only question was whether the results, based on how the results were going and where Arsenal were ending, would the board will stick with him. And to their credit, they have, and they deserve every single plaudit that is coming their way right now, because the setup that they now have on their hands is absolutely fantastic. And the two additions that Arteta has made in Alexander Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus are brilliant to see in the last 2 seasons. And that is I think credit goes to Arteta for being able to realize that these are the two players that he has worked with before, who he could acclimate into his team immediately because they feel like they have been playing here for years. And I think Arteta's team has is as good as arrived now. I think you can always build up your team, you can always improve upon what you already have. But I think this season Arteta has most of the tools, if not all of them. I think he has as good a squad as he could have asked for when he arrived on day one. And I think the way they are playing their football, I think it's quite scary because they are confident. Arsenal are confident. The players are playing together. The way they move around on the pitch, it looks like they know where the other person is going to be. And when you have that kind of instinctive play, we have seen this with champions teams all around like all over the place, right? No matter which country, which league you are playing from, when this is the kind of form you are on, you immediately become a contender for being the best team in the land. And when you become a contender for being the best team in the land, you just need to be the most consistent one. And that is all Arsenal need to worry about because they have started brilliantly. They have as good a platform as they will ever have. And Arteta will be hoping that his former employers in Manchester City keep dropping points so that he has enough of a head start and they end up going as far ahead as they can and not implode. This is not an Arsenal side that I can see imploding at the moment because they are doing quite well. Obviously, we don't really know what this particular setup of Arteta team will how will this setup of Arteta team will react if they suffer a victory, because the previous teams we know that they have had a psychological issue. They had a hard time getting off the ground sometimes. And last season, obviously, after the first three defeats, questions were being asked, "Oh, are they in a relegation battle?" Which obviously not the case. But yeah, that Arsenal team we are aware of knowing. But how this one will react, one that is together, one that is confident, one that feels like this is the more time to go forward, we are yet to see. But as far as I'm concerned, I think this is a brilliant, going to be a very exciting season for Arsenal and Arsenal fans. And as far as this match is concerned, I cannot see them not winning this game under any circumstances.
Okay. So we have most of our top six teams playing on Saturday itself, though Tottenham plays Nottingham Forest on Sunday. And for some reason, in my personal opinion, that is the game I'm most looking forward to this week. because Tottenham obviously has to have had a good start, and Nottingham is also a very interesting team, a very exciting team to watch, in fact. And Nottingham Forest had a draw with Everton coming into this game, and Tottenham won their game 1-0 through a Harry Kane goal against Wolves. So, guys, very quickly, what are your take on this? What is your take on this fixture? Who starts the favorite? Ali, if we can start with you.
Uh, the Tottenham are going to start as favorites in this game too. But the problem with Nottingham Forest is they have not inculcated their new signings still. They'll need at least maybe 3, 4, or 5 more game weeks to have a proper first team which Steve Cooper can look at that this is my first 11. So Tottenham, they have the instinct of getting a goal out of nowhere, because against Wolves in the first half they were looking like nothing. They didn't have a single proper chance in the first half, but in the second half, the same players turned up as a completely different team and they got a goal. So they are very, very rigid in the defense, and everyone is there to put in their shifts in the defenses. So I feel it can be a low scoring goal. It might be a low scoring goal, I think, but Tottenham can chip in with one or two extra goal to win the game. So they are the favorites for me.
Okay, Rahul, any interesting points we should look forward to in this game?
Yeah, I think the main reason why this can be another like a banana skin for them is that like they are Forest themselves also deploy a 3-4-3 system. So like, and Steve, we all know Steve Cooper is a very good coach. So in that regard, although like he still he hasn't integrated most of his new players, and like they have I think in terms of big chances conceded, they are I think second or third highest, but still like since they are since three at the back system are squaring off here, so like there's a very big chance that Steve Cooper's system can neutralize the contest system to a larger extent. And I think also because Forest are playing at home, so that would also play a big part in this game. And Tottenham didn't look convincing at all, like, against Wolves. Like if the Wolves had a finisher, Wolves win their game quite easily. So yeah, so Spurs still have a lot to prove. At least for me to say that they are genuinely there for to fight with the likes of Arsenal, Liverpool, and City. Like Liverpool themselves are in the mud, but yeah, so yeah, they still have a lot to prove. Not convincing for me.
Okay, Anshuman, do you agree with that, or you think that's not the case?
No, I mostly agree with what Rahul said, and I expect Spurs to have another professional performance. I expect them to win, but I wouldn't expect this game to be easy for them at all, because Chief Cooper
Hmm.
is a very good coach, and the biggest challenge that he has with this Forest side right now is to all of these signings that they have had, most of which they needed to, because last season they were playing with loan players. It's still that you're still having to acclimate a lot of players into a new setup, which is always very hard. So Nottingham Forest are going to have this kind of a season where they'll have good performances, they'll have bad performances, but they will always be very challenging. And Rahul pointed out that he will also play. Steve Cooper will also play in a 3-4-3, and Tottenham, that the 3-4-3 that they play, the most advanced attacking makeup that 3-4-3 end up having is more of a 4-2-4, where it's an asymmetric 4-4, because Emerson Royal as the right back is the one that is relatively backwards, and then you have someone like Ryan Sessegnon or even Perisic, an attack-minded fullback who's completely up front and allows the left-sided forward to drift wide, who's in this case is Heung-min Son. So is that is the where the spaces will open for Forest. That space between that full back on the left hand side and the left sided centre back. And I'm not really sure if they are in a position to immediately exploit that, but that is something that they will be looking to do that. So are they as comfortable? Well, are they looking as comfortable as Arsenal at the moment, Spurs? No, I don't think so. But I still expect them to win this match and have another professional performance. Not a high scoring game, but a 1-1, 1-0 or a 2-1.
Interesting. So that was most of our game week 4 fixtures. Our top 6 teams playing the other teams. Then we have other fixtures also. We have Brighton hosting Leeds United, and then we have Brentford playing Everton. Then we have Wolves playing Newcastle, and Aston Villa playing West Ham. Any interesting notes on these matches? Something to look forward to, or any shocking results you see here, Ali?
Brighton against Leeds is going to spicy.
Rahul, yeah, please. Brighton
Yeah,
against Leeds, you
Brighton
expect
against
that to be
Leeds.
better.
Yeah, is going to spicy. Like the most, at the moment, the most explosive attack against the meanest defense in the league. So like this is going to be a great matchup.
So that's a game we should all look forward to, especially with the kind of form Leeds and Brighton have been, and especially Leeds after the last game against Chelsea. They've really seemed to be peaking at the right moment. Anshuman, any interesting notes for this upcoming these the rest of the matches?
I would be very surprised if Everton win against Brentford because they have started the
Hmm.
season poorly, and I don't know what Frank Lampard is going to do, if anything at all. I honestly cannot see anything happening there. It's a disaster waiting to happen. I'm not trying to be
Anshuman,
sensational.
who's playing
Yeah,
at home? Who's
uh,
playing at home?
I don't know. I think because
Brentford. It's Brentford.
yeah,
It's
Oh,
so I
Brentford's
think
home game.
Brentford will
yeah,
get.
then
So
Everton don't win this at all.
yeah,
They are
so
not going
I
to do
in
anything else.
general, I'm very worried about Everton and Frank Lampard. I don't really know where it's going. I obviously could be wrong on this, but I cannot see. I don't really see anything fruitful happening there. So that would be the shock for me because I expect Brentford to win at home. I would expect them to win at Goodison anyway because right now Goodison is not going to be as angsty as they would have been at the back end of a season. But yeah, this is the I would be very shocked if Everton win. So that is one of the things that I wanted to flag up. Otherwise, Brighton versus Leeds is going to be a very spicy affair because Brighton are also not only they are a mean defense right now, they're also the kind of team who play in your face, who will make you uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And Leeds seem to be the kind of team who are going to relish playing against a team that will make them comfortable. So because
yeah.
Jesse March, the kind of temperament he has, his team has started to reflect that on the pitch. So that is a match apart from the top six teams. That is the one I'm looking forward to as well.
Ali, how about you? Any interesting fixtures for you?
Yeah, for me, the match of the week can be Brighton versus Leeds. So it's gonna be very interesting. I think it's at Leeds home, right? No, sorry, Brighton's home. So
Brighton's home
again,
game.
the
Yeah,
one of the most prolific striking team in Leeds in the first three game weeks, and meanest defender Rahul and Anshuman pointed out. But what the match I'm looking forward to, which we haven't talked about, is Wolves versus Newcastle. So it's gonna be defense versus defense. So they have started with very rigid and strong systems, and the way Wolves have been playing this season, even against Spurs, the kind of triangles they were forming in the midfield and progressing the ball from defense to attack all over the game, especially in the first half. I was very much shocked while seeing that in Wolves. You know, we have always seen them as a counter-attacking team, but right now they are tending to become somewhat what Brighton have been doing, like a possession-based team. So again, they lack that goal scoring thing from them. Gonzalo Guedes, he will need time to settle. Raul Jimenez, I don't know. I think he's not fit enough for whatever reason. They are not playing him. They didn't start him with him, and they are going
Yeah,
for
he's injured.
injured. Okay. They are going for Stuttgart's Sasaki last dish for a striker. If they get him, I think they are good to go because he's a tall striker and he would probably fit into the system of Wolves the way they need a strong and rigid proper number nine. So for this game, Wolves and Newcastle is gonna be very spicy affair. And I'm waiting to see what Alexander Isak does. The new signing announced today from Newcastle. Now they have three strikers right now, and I think they might even play Alexander Isak at the right wing too at some point of time because they lack the attacking creativity from that side. You know, Miguel Almiron is there all the time, but he gives more of a defensive support to the right back. So I'm very much looking forward for that game.
so there we go, guys. That was our preview of the game week 4. And thank you so much, Rahul, Anshuman, Ali, for your thoughts and opinions. And it's the season is picking up. It's heating up. It's warming up. It's a very exciting season this season personally for me also because like in this game week from this game week we can see a lot of things which are different from the last season. There's revolution happening in Newcastle. Leeds are playing with a completely different manager. United is somewhat coming back into form. So there's a lot to look forward to in this season, and I hope you guys all will also look forward to us discussing the season every week in our podcast, Blood, Sweat, and Beers. We also have our episode on the FPL, which you should tune in for our experts' opinions on the FPL team, and we also have our league running. The code in the is in the description. Please join our league. And yes, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. And please follow Sports Khabri on all the platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. Sports Khabri is, I think, one place where you'll get all the updates related to all kind of sports. And thank you once more. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Anshuman. Thank you, Ali. It was a pleasure talking to you guys, and I can't wait for our next episode when we review and our game week 4 and preview the game week 5. Of course, guys, next week is going to be our first midweek fixtures, so you can expect to be hearing a lot more from us. Exciting times, 3 games, 9 days. I hope you guys are as excited as I am.